Stoukas coming to you live from Sarnia, Ontario. May 1st, May Day, Labor Day in many countries where they have big May Day parades. Um, so, yeah, we're in Ontario here, still looking at the election aftermath in Canada here. Um, Lots of moving parts, lots of different pieces. Um, on the Liberal side, Mark Carney's got a lot on his plate. I guess he's going to meet with Trump sometime this week or in the next week. And he's got to figure out how to get his majority, whether he's bribing NDP guys, giving Elizabeth May the speakership, or even Conservatives. You never know. He could be bribing some of them. I doubt it, though. And then he's also, I guess, he's given a little conference tomorrow, press conference or something like tomorrow morning about his plans for Canada. So that should be interesting to hear. I'm sure he's going to screw us. I'm a little worried. I'm not going to sound like pleb here. Jeez. But, I mean, he's buddies with the Keir Starmer types in Davos, and in Germany and UK they're knocking on the doors for people who post stuff on social media. I don't think I would get a knock on the door. I think there's people more crazier than me, but funnier too. But yeah, he could be. He's probably. I feel like he's one of them. But he's got this superpower. Mark Carney. He's got a superpower. He's very bland, like banal, like just very ordinary, but not in a bad way, but like in a positive way. Like he's just a very unthreatening guy. Trudeau, you had a face you could punch in the face, like he's just annoying and just such a phony. But Carney's got this banal thing about him where it's hard to get emotional reaction from people on him. Anyway, it's a superpower, I feel, because it's hard to target him. So, yeah, he's got a lot going on. But he should be. It should be interesting to see how his photo op with Trump in the Oval Office would be. Like, it's going to be weird, but interesting and fascinating. I'm looking forward to that. Tomorrow, what he says. I'm interested in his priorities, or if it's going to be anything new. Any jackboot stuff. Again, he's good at boring you, so you lose interest, and then he'll do it. And then the NDP. I'm sure there's some people really getting some good offers right now. Oh my God. They got 7 MPs. They need 3, let's say. I'm sure there's some nice, sweet offers going out there. I could just imagine. It's like winning the lottery. The NDP goes down in flames, and you're one of the MPs that survived the wreckage. And here they're dangling this stuff. Oh my God. It's like winning the House of Commons lottery. So that's what's going on that side. And on the Conservative side, it's a little more hazy. And I feel kind of bad for Pierre. He's taking a lot of hits, but I mean, you're the leader, man. That's the way it goes. So apparently he hasn't gone on Twitter for like 2 days now. And people want him to, say what's up. He's going to take a seat. What's he going to do? Because as I was saying yesterday, if he were to go in a by-election, it'd take months to get it set up and done with to get him to the House of Commons. Maybe at least 6 months, you would think, unless they expedited it. And then he's got to get some poor bastard to give up his seat. It's hard to win a seat. You don't want to give it up. But so the guy giving up the seat's got to have some faith that Pierre's going to come through. Otherwise, you're giving up the seat for nothing. So Pierre, I guess he hasn't been hurt. He's taking it easy. I get it. But, he's got to decide soon if he's going to get a seat. Like, because he can be a de facto leader. He's not official. He can't be official opposition leader unless he has a seat. But he can be like the de facto leader outside of the House for a little bit. But that's not a good look. So he definitely is in the bind. And I think he's really deciding his future now, to be honest. He's been there 20 years. He's probably due for a change. Like, that's too long to be in the same spot. And I'm sorry. We're talking about Pierre here. Let's get it out on the table. He should own, for 20 years, if he's the MP of that riding, he should own that riding. He should have every corner of that riding sewn up. Especially if he's running for Prime Minister, for God's sake. Like, you got to get your home in order. And the riding is your home. And there was some chicanery going on in his riding. He should have put a stop to that stuff. Come on. Like the 90 names on the ballot. I'm sure there's a rule against that. Especially if it was all the same guy putting them in. Like, that's bullshit. Not a peep from him on that. And about the Jerry, there's some suggestions. There was gerrymandering that put him at a disadvantage. Well, you own that ride, man. So you're riding for 20 years. You put a stop to that gerrymandering, or at least raise a fuss about it. And then if a worst case, you get out of that riding and go somewhere else, where you're welcome. But what my point is Pierre is supposed a leader, supposedly a take charge kind of guy. But his riding, which he owned for 20 years, and when I say own, I mean you're the MP there for 20 years. You should know every guy's or gal's name when you do the rounds. They should know you. You should know them. And they should be loyal, and you should have loyal people out there working hard for you. It's your riding. Obviously, that didn't happen. Or it didn't happen enough. Or maybe the Liberals did pour some money in there to embarrass them. But I don't know. That doesn't seem to be the case. It seems like he just got a little lazy there on his riding. So anyway, now people are like, guys like the pleb and all them are saying he's got to stay. He's awesome. And he did so much. And whatever. He did whatever he did. He lost. But the point is it's going to be fascinating because these guys want him to stay, like a lot of people on the X here, doesn't mean he's going to stay. Like Andrew Scheer lost the election after one shot. He kept his riding, but he was still replaced because they weren't happy with his performance and his electability. And then Aaron O'Toole, same deal. Won his riding, lost the election, kicked out shortly after. Again, they weren't happy with his performance up to that point. Here we got Pierre, lost the election and his riding. And I'm not saying he'll resign tomorrow, but will it lead him into a new election 4 years from now? 3 years from now? Because that's Carney's gonna drag it out. He ain't no rush. He don't like campaigning with the peasants. You think he was happy going to the diners and the Tim Hortons? He doesn't do that. He's a central banker. So he's gonna stay away from election as long as he can, and so Pierre's gonna be frozen out Do you think he's going to last that long to lead to the next election? He's he literally talks in slogans. It's ridiculous. I didn't even notice until the election, to be honest. So anyway, based on the history, it's going to be difficult. And add to that, he's got all this friction with Doug Ford, who literally wants his job. I'm pretty well convinced based on all his actions here. Or a lot of other people are eyeing him. Like, politicians are like hyenas when they see something. I don't know if that's the right analogy, but whenever they see something, someone's struggling, they all want to fill the vacuum. So it's kind of a bloody sport. So Pierre's kind of like the wounded animal right now. Will he regroup, or will the pack jump, and different leadership factions emerge? Because right now is the fluid time. He's gone radio dark, so some decisions are being made. He's probably being told this is that and that and that. It's about what are donors saying? What's this? What's that? But he seems to have some management issues, because the riding's one example. He didn't have the riding under his thumb, and when I say, I'm not seeing as like boss hog, he owns the riding. What I'm saying is he's connected to that riding. Like, he obviously, there was a disconnect there of some sort, because you don't be MP of a riding for 20 years and not know every guy's name in that riding. Like, that's like standard. And you were leading them, like, you were leading 25 points in the poll not too long ago. So the fact that you lost your riding is ridiculous. So didn't do the work. But anyway, then so the fact that he doesn't have a riding really makes things difficult for him. I think he would have had I think he would have had a difficult time even if he kept his riding. I think he would have had Doug Ford still sabotaging him, and other conservatives who don't like him. Basically, they don't like him. So, but not having the riding will make it even worse, even more difficult. And then you got Trump, which is weird. You got Trump bad mouthing him, and he's talking about Pierre like he talked about Trudeau in the same tone. Like he's a punk. So I'm wondering what went on between the two camps. Like, did Pierre piss? I hope this story comes out, because it seems like they pissed him off. And I'm not saying Trump is right or wrong. I'm just saying he looks like they pissed him off. It's hilarious. So, yeah, Canadian politics, very messed up. And then you hear the rumblings in Alberta about Western separation. And you don't know, I don't know, I don't live in Alberta, so I don't know how serious it is. I have an uncle in Alberta and a couple cousins, aunt and uncle, a couple cousins. And maybe they can sponsor me if I have to get exiled from here. But if it's like pleb and I'm going to put in jail. But I don't know, like I don't live there, so, but you hear more and more on the X about Alberta separatists, and they're doing this referendum, not a referendum, yeah, Citizens Initiative ballot, and they got enough signatures supposedly. Who knows? And they're saying like the now the native groups are saying, oh, Alberta can't leave because it's native land and all this, and just people are throwing up all sorts of roadblocks. And you know what it reminds me of? Like the Brexit, saying, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that, we can't leave you. It's similar, not exactly the same, but it's kind of the same idea. I don't know how serious it is. It's serious enough that like politicians are getting asked about, like the premier and politicians like are being asked about Western separatism. So it's not. It may be a fringe thing. I don't know, but it's serious enough that they're talking about it in the main press. And even Saskatchewan is talking about Saskatchewan. Even Saskatchewan doesn't want to be with. I've been to Saskatchewan. It's like empty. There's nobody there. But apparently you can get some nice cheap land there. But it's cold as hell in the winter. And the summers it's not really nice. I mean there's no like ocean or it's like wheat. Mm. Yeah. So we'll see how it unfolds. Like see how the Carney does. See how I can't wait to see the Carney Trump meeting. It's going to be hilarious. I have a feeling. I don't know when that's happening. I'm sure he's going to talk tomorrow to the reporters. Excuse. Carney's going to talk to reporters tomorrow. I'm sure maybe he'll update people on his meeting. I'm sure they're going to ask him, when are you meeting Trump? It's going to be weird seeing them in the room together, especially after seeing him and Trudeau. But he didn't even want to talk to Trudeau at the end. I think he called him down to Mar-a-Lago just to say, you didn't think I'd win again, you punk. And then he kicked him out. But yeah, all these people are like, oh, supporting Pierre and all that, but I don't see it happening. I think he's got a lot. He's got Ford sabotaging him, continuing to sabotage him. He's got uh, he's made other enemies, I'm sure, and he doesn't have a seat. I mean, that kind of complicates things. It's a long process to get back in. All right, so that's what I think. Like I said, the liberals they're cruising along. The conservatives are laughing at the conservatives, but I'm sure Pierre will come to some. What day is it today? Tomorrow's Friday. Oh my gosh! So if Pierre doesn't say anything tonight, Carney will get in tomorrow, do his thing with the reporters, and then if Pierre will have to say something after. He can't just sit by Friday afternoon. Hey, well, we'll see. Give him time. He's been through a lot. All right, so I have technical difficulties. I'm probably have to buy new connections here. Of course, more money. See if it works here. All right. So, not much going on today. Everybody's chilling out. Here's Doug Ford. Some more hate for Doug Ford by the conservatives that supported Pierre. He chose ego over country. Let that sink in. A lot of people are mad with Ford. But I've been saying this about Ford for years. When he did the COVID con job along with Trudeau, like I don't understand it. Why people didn't notice? I guess they're afraid of the COVID, or they're ashamed maybe. But anyway, so I've been saying this for years that he's a liberal, and now all of a sudden it's like Doug Ford's a liberal. What? It's kind of funny to watch. I'm glad people are realizing it though. Him and his bleach blonde hair. Can't even see. I'm blinded by that hair. Let's see what he says. Oh.
A C stamped on your forehead. You talked about having a blue sign on your lawn.
Yep.
Why is there so much bad blood between you and the federal party? And how does the federal party start to build bridges now within the conservative movement as they look to the next 4 years?
Well, all they have to do is make a phone call. I like a lot of the MPs, but the people spoke, and they spoke loud and clear. They spoke loud and clear in our election, and they spoke loud and clear on the federal election. And so that's democracy.
So you can tell he's saying, hey, I want a majority. He lost. People are right. So basically he's running for federal leader. He's a very ambitious guy, apparently. He wanted to be premier for a long, long time before he'd be premier. Probably people thought he was insane. But he proved them wrong. And he's going to try to do the prime minister thing. Oh, my God. So that's what Pierre has to deal with. The big bulldozer, Doug Ford. So at least it'll be entertaining to watch him and Pierre go at each other. Next post. It's not going to be many today. This has got a lot of hits today. So Kean Bext. Don't I've nothing against the guy. He's a very energetic person, but he said PPC vote split tip tight Ontario races in favor of Liberals. And I'm like, he's such a homer for Pierre, which is whatever, it is what it is. But it's such a disingenuous headline because the way this headline from Juno News is saying, and I'm not going to read the article because I already know what it's going to say. It's going to say there was a few ridings that there wasn't PPC and all those votes went to Conservatives. Conservatives would have won. And I said, I voted PPC, or wait. It's a ridiculous argument because guarantee you a lot of those PPC votes wouldn't be caught dead. First of all, it's whiny. Instead of being a man, and I'm sick of all these conservatives guys. Serious. They should act like men and women. The women actually seem to be taking a little better. But stop acting like a little girly man and say we lost. What did we do wrong? Let's kick some ass. No more mistakes. But no, it's like blame everybody. Blame the weather, whatever. So blaming PPC, they got 0.8% of the vote, man. That's cope, Kean. And I said I voted PPC because of their platform aligned with my views the most out of the political parties. So does PPC align with me 100%? Do I agree with everything that party does? No. Do I agree with the most stuff out of all the parties? Do I agree with the most with them? Yes. I didn't split the vote because CPC is globalist trash. You don't deserve my support. So there you go, Kean. But I wouldn't be caught dead voting for a Conservative Party. I'd rather not vote. If there wasn't a PPC, I know the PPC guy in this area, and he's a very cool guy. But if there wasn't, there's no way I'd vote Conservative. So, Kean, you're very flawed in assuming that the PPCers gonna vote Conservative. It's very flawed logic because you don't know what you're talking about. You're just a propaganda con man, and you lie to your readers because you're lying. It's not our fault. We don't want to vote for your uniparty blob. Okay. Next post. One of the things Carney's done is reiterated a commitment to Ukraine in this call with Zelensky. So it's like It's like we have to take the customary call with Zelensky. That's like the new pope. And he's invited him to Kananaskis for the G7 summit. Why? I don't know. I didn't know Ukraine was in the G7. It's ridiculous. Which should be interesting because Trump will be there too. It'll be rocking in Kananaskis. It'll be weird. So yeah, basically the Ukraine policy is the exact same, of course. But in all fairness, Pierre wasn't going to change it either. In fact, he probably would have made it worse. He probably would have sent them more weapons. So that's why I said doesn't matter who you put in from the Uniparty blob because they always support war. So yeah. Doesn't matter if it's conservatives. Doesn't matter if it's liberals. That policy is identical. Next post. Globe and Mail. So I don't really read the Globe and Mail because I don't subscribe to it. But it says, when exactly did Canadian housing become so unaffordable? And who's to blame? Oh, I would think it would happen around 10 years ago. Maybe a little over 10 years ago when basically the immigration floodgates were opened. Especially from India. Because the Indians community, they have a lot of ways to move around the money and stuff. They use a lot of fake documents. They get mortgages. Rents go up. More people come, more rent. I drive by houses being rented. People got to live somewhere. It's not rocket science. Lots of money laundering probably in real estate. Yeah. Next post. This one has gotten a lot of hits. Let's look at the video first. This is Trump. Joe Andrew, Puck Daddy. He had a video on Trump. Let's listen to it.
Signal because it's almost even, which makes it very complicated. It was the one that hated Trump. I think the least that won. I actually think the conservative hated me much more than the so-called liberal. He's a pretty liberal guy. But no, I spoke to him yesterday. Couldn't have been nicer. And I congratulated him. You know, it was a very mixed signal because it's almost even, which makes it very complicated for the country. It's a pretty tight race. But he's a very nice gentleman. It was the one that hated Trump. I think the least that won.
So yeah, conservatives are saying, "Oh, this is like what's Puck Daddy saying? This is like
liberal guy." But no, I spoke to him yesterday. Couldn't have been nicer. And I
he's going to get steamrolled by Trump.
It was a very mixed.
And it doesn't sound like he's talking pretty nice about Carney. Like he's talking bad about Pierre. He's like, he wouldn't even mention Pierre's name. Like I'm telling you, something pissed Trump off. Someone in Pierre's camp pissed Trump off. And, you know, not saying Trump's right, but it's hilarious. So Pierre's got the cold shoulder from the most powerful man in the world. It probably would have helped your cause if, I'm just saying strategically, to not have the most powerful man in the world bad-mouthing you after you lost the election. It's just weird. It is very weird. And I thought Pierre shouldn't have kicked out the guy wearing the "Make Canada Great Again" hat from his rally, because like, you know, like that's the message you're sending is like, oh, we're that kind of party. We don't want that kind of stuff here. And maybe, you know, something like that happened with Trump where he was offended and boom, he won't even mention Pierre's name. Not even mention his name. At least Trudeau, he said Governor Trudeau. Pierre's not even doesn't even exist for him. It's hilarious. He always says something, but compared to Carney, he's like, yeah, I like Carney. But I think something happened. Seriously, Pierre did something to piss off Donald Trump because he clearly doesn't like Pierre. I'm like, even maybe he reminds Trump of those rhino never Trumpers in the USA. You know, those fake conservatives that aren't really conservatives. They're just Paid corporate shills.
But
So
he's a
I guess
very
we'll find
nice
out
gentleman.
someday.
It was the one that hated Trump. I think the least of that one. I actually think the conservative hated me much more than the.
He doesn't
than the
like
so-called
Pierre. It's
liberals,
hilarious.
pretty liberal
We're gonna
guy.
find out that story
But no, I
someday.
spoke to him yesterday. Couldn't have been nicer.
Okay. Next post. Have the people who chose Mark Carney to be our PM ever even heard of Bilderberg, the Trilateral Commission, Group of 30, WEF, BIS, Bank of International Settlements, or any of the other shady organizations that he's been part of? Private security, private meetings, private information, global agendas. Yeah. Carney comes from a whole different universe than you and me. He's ultra globalist. So there's a globalist like Trudeau, and then there's the ultra globalist. So he's going to mess us up bad. And it seems like Pierre and the Conservatives did their dive in the 5th round. So we're here defenseless, of course, because we haven't had a real opposition in Canada for many years. Let's not kid ourselves. So, yeah, and people never heard of these organizations because they don't really advertise themselves. I was at a Bilderberg thing in Athens, Greece once, and they had enough military there to invade a country. And they were at the nicest resort in Athens. That's how they operate, man. All right, next post. All right, this was the kind of the talking point of the day because Pierre's hiding. And I don't say hiding. I shouldn't say hiding. You know, he's had a rough campaigns, long, 37 days, whatever. I get it, but we had Andrew Scheer hit the circuit and say Poilievre's absolutely staying on, slams the criticism of Doug Ford. He got into it with Doug Ford saying, we got more votes than Doug Ford. Yeah. So there's a feud going on in the Conservative Party, and losing does that. Losing causes, and you got power vacuums and people wanting, ambitious people sensing weakness. You're going to have drama, and we're seeing that right now. And I think they're doing the calculation. You're doing the calculation right now. If you're a conservative hierarchy, you're conservative donor, you want the winner. You're thinking, okay, do I stick with Pierre? Because if I stick with him, we're going to have to invest for the next 4 years, assuming there's an election within the next 3-4 years. That's our horse. Or if we're going to switch, we have to switch it now. Because if we're not going to have an election in 3-4 years, we start looking for a leader now. So that's the dilemma they're facing. And Pierre's facing whether he can. So that's why someone like Doug Ford, it fits his timeline. He's not going to be Premier of Ontario forever. So it's messed up. But that's what they're going to decide. Anyway, Scheer's on the TV saying absolutely staying on. But Scheer said the same thing when he was the Conservative leader. He said, I ain't going nowhere. And then he got kicked out too. So really, that's what they say, of course. But only time will tell. The question is, do you think Pierre's going to stay for 3 years as opposition leader after supposedly getting a seat in a by-election and run in the next election? I don't see it happening. I could be wrong. And if I'm wrong, I'll be the first to admit I was wrong. Just like the guys who went on TV and said, there's no way Pierre's going to lose his riding, should say they were wrong. So next post. More Doug Ford. Doug Ford was slagging judges the other day and criticizing the bail reform. You could tell he's running for office for Pierre's job. And that's what he does, like the judge thing. That's like the kind of like the controversial stuff he'll say. He thinks that appeals to Joe Lunchbox. It might. But, he's in campaign mode. And we're screwed for sure if this blob is Canadian Prime Minister. Screwed. We're screwed already, but you know we're screwed. So why would Ford support Carney during the election, then come out now, and complain about the same soft on crime policies the Liberals have pushed for years, and they continue to defend? Because he's in campaign mode. That's why. It's ridiculous. He don't care about Ontario. He don't care about Canada. All he cares about is his fat gut and his snowmobile trails and his cottage. Serious. And good. Just go to your cottage, stay there. But if they elect this guy as prime minister, it's totally over. It might be over before then, but it'll be totally over. Next post. Candace Malcolm. Trump resumes 51st state rhetoric. Takes credit for Poilievre's downfall. So I said, what did Pierre Poilievre do to piss off Donald Trump? Trump talks about Pierre the same way he talks about Justin Trudeau. It does. He doesn't like Pierre. I think he thinks he's a little like something. Trump's usually right on those things. He knows the weasel when he sees one. Kyle Kemper. I like his post. He's funny. He's a little crazy, but I'm increasingly convinced that Pierre Poilievre was a designated loser. Here and why I predict things go. Let's see what he says. I have that feeling too. Like, Pierre ran a lame campaign. He screwed up a huge lead. And it was like he was like Butch told to drop in the 5th round. So Pierre failed because tightly controlled campaign messaging. Reminded me of Kamala, that did. Conceded quickly and since disappeared. Never mentioned his riding expansion. This is what I said. He didn't own his riding. Never once mentioned the ridiculous 91 candidates on the ballot. Didn't talk about Carney as a ultra globalist. Basically hid. He didn't go on any podcast. And he basically just copied the Liberals. So it's just like he's there just to show. I think the fix was in with Carney, like right from the start when he started showing up, and then they said Trudeau's going to go, and then the next thing you know, Carney's in there and wins the leadership, and the next thing you know, he's prime minister, and the next thing you know, he's Pierre seems to have like just fallen in a line. I think maybe I'm being too much of a conspiracy theorist, but now I don't know, man. I think we're screwed. Ain't nobody coming. Okay, next post. Canadian automobile parts won't be hit with Trump's tariffs. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see now that this election over how Toronto won, how the thing with Carney and how Carney's going to deal with Trump now that the election's over. They seem to have had their set their meeting. The election was just like, got to get this inconvenient election over with first, Donald. So automobile parts won't be hit with tariffs. That's good, I guess. But he's still playing a game. Like, he definitely wants more manufacturing in these states, and he sees all these automobile part plants in Canada, and he wants a few of them over there. We'll see what happens with the new negotiations. Next post here.
Whether Doug Ford is a good enough conservative. Jamil
This was
Devani's
interesting.
not the only one.
I like this clip. Oh.
Who thinks that. I know that there are conservatives.
So this post was interesting. Now they're talking about Doug Ford. Is actually a liberal. they were talking about this on CBC, and I think this is hilarious that it took Doug Ford. It took him sabotaging the Conservative campaign. And don't get me wrong, they made plenty of mistakes on their own, the Conservative Party. But Doug Ford did his best to sabotage what he could. But that's what it took for people to realize he was actually a globalist sellout. Because he was like that during COVID. He hasn't changed. He hasn't changed at all. He's either being blackmailed or bought off. I don't know why people are acting so surprised, but better late than never. So let's see what this guy says.
Doug Ford is a good enough on whether Doug Ford is a good enough Conservative. Jamil Javani's not the only one who thinks that. I know that there are Conservatives who work for the Ford government at Queen's Park who don't think Doug Ford is a Conservative.
Excuse me.
So that should be interesting too. Canadian politics. That's what happens when you have no strong leadership. They all scurry around like rats. And here's a story, the demographic story too of the election. And this is kind of just the way it is. I said yesterday too, like the boomers, their whole lives, all they done is alternate really between Democrat, Republican, liberal, conservative. Literally, that's their whole life. So they're set in their ways, and you know, they're not going to get into this proportional representation or any kind of different democratic procedures. They like it the way they want it. And the first past the post is what they grew up with. They're going to stay with it. So according to this, the thing that won the Liberals' elections, I already said it was the boomers and the Indians. They won the ethnic vote in the GTA, and they won the boomers in the other parts. So shows here that they crushed the boomer, like they crushed 52 to 34, 55 plus. And I'll tell you right now, those 55 plus, they all vote, all of them. If they have a heartbeat, they're voting. Right? Okay? And you got a 20-point lead, and they're all voting. I use that word sabotage too. All right, 35-54. They lose by 7 points. All right, they vote. A lot of them vote, but a lot of them don't. I can tell you right now, a lot of 35 don't vote. They have a political opinion, but they won't vote. Either they're lazy or they don't care, or they don't think it'll make a difference. And then you have the 18 to 34, where they have a 9-point lead, the Conservatives. Guarantee 18 to 34, a lot of those ones won't vote either, trust me. The ones that are like on TikTok, maybe, but probably not. So maybe, I don't know. But the boomers, most of them vote. And that's why they win. So we can't really complain, you know. We can't, unless you don't let them vote. What are you going to do? I guarantee they have like those nursing homes, polling stations zooming up, vacuuming up those ballots. Just sign here, Grandma. But anyway, I think there's not many boomer elections left. Maybe one more where they win, like they decide the outcome. But maybe not. Maybe not even. Maybe this could be the last one. Next post, then. Here's some more reaction to Trump. I hope every liberal understands that Trump played them all. The very person they had all their elbows up against not only wanted to get Carney elected, but is also going to have a great relationship with him. Yeah, it's weird. We'll see how that unfolds. All right. Glenn McGregor. More speculation on Pierre Poilievre. He lost the seat count, lost the popular vote, and is diminished without a seat in the House of Commons. Polls of approval ratings showed he was a ballot drag on the party. That's what I thought too. He pulled behind the party, especially among women. So yeah, I expect Liberals would love for him to stick around. I totally don't believe he will be leading the Conservatives into the next election, but I could be wrong, and I will be the first to admit it if I'm wrong. I'll be the first. All right. And that's it. Heading into Friday. At least Toronto won their playoff series. It's a miracle. First round. They got out of the first round. So on that note, I'll see you guys Monday. Have a great weekend. Thank you.